Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
In accordance with what we think your dying wishes might well have been, we commit your final mortal remains to the bosom of the Pacific Ocean, which you love so well. Good night, sweet prince.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Well, proves once again you really can't take it with you.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
In the movie The Big Lebowski, two close friends dealing with the loss of another close friend decide to have him cremated and then place his remains in, of all things, a coffee can, all with the intention of honoring their dead friend by tossing his remains off a scenic cliff on the coast of California. Everything about this sentimental moment is quite touching until the ashes tossed in the air blow right back into one of their faces. And while I've never tossed a loved one's ashes off a cliff, on two separate occasions I have sat around the table at the local funeral home as part of a family attempt to make final arrangements of a deceased loved one. First, my father, who passed away in the 1990s at the age of 64, and then just a few years ago making arrangements with other family members for my dear mother-in-law, who finally succumbed to cancer. In both cases, planning the details of the funeral, picking out the casket, what to say in their obituary, who might be the speaker at the service. One thing both of them had in common was that all that they had accumulated, all that they had possessed, neither of them could take it with them, which is one reason, among many reasons, I wrote the book, Live Well, Die Broke, because it really is true, you can't take it with you. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, can't take it with you specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we get started with the second part of our program content, let me introduce to you in the Worry-Free Production Studios on this March 7th, 2023, here in Louisville, Kentucky, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander. Good morning, Aaron.
Hey, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and bless his heart, Derek's out sick today, so you're not only helping produce the radio show, but you're already working on the TV show. Folks, if you're not aware, we do a radio show and a TV show we produce each and every week here in our production studios in Louisville, Kentucky, both called the Worry-Free Retirement. So today, of course, is the radio show. But if you haven't seen the TV show, you ought to check it out. And if it's, we have all the times listed. I think we're at 7 different channels. I believe that's right throughout the state of Kentucky and Bowling Green, Louisville, and Lexington. So check it out. Go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You can see the TV listings there. And as well, you can go to our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is Tony Walker Financial, or is it Worry Free? Tony Walker Financial.
Tony Walker Financial on YouTube, yeah.
And you can watch past episodes. All right, Aaron, I know I caught you off guard. Right before we went on, I said, hey, Aaron, you mind if I ask you a question? And you're like, oh, what is it? So here we go. First of all, have you ever been involved with a arrangement having to be made after the deceased of a loved one? Have you been at that funeral home sitting around talking about this kind of stuff?
Yes, I have. With 2 of my grandparents, yes, I was there helping kind of pick out, floral arrangements and it's a lot. It can be a lot.
Yeah, the 2 I mentioned, my father's funeral, much of that was planned by his wife, and there really wasn't a lot to do, quite frankly. He had Alzheimer's, passed away in a nursing home. I mean, many of the things had already kind of been prearranged. We expected it. My mother-in-law, she died pretty quickly, and I am not about to make light of this at all, Aaron, but the thing that was interesting, in fact, we're going to have him on the show later on. He will remember this because he was the funeral director for my mother-in-law's funeral years ago, was us sitting around, the family members, Aaron, and, Some of it was planned by Dee Dee, some of it wasn't. But I never will forget Eddie going, hey, you all, who's got the obituary? And we all looked at each other. We said, nobody's got an obituary written. And he's like, well, we got to get something to the paper right away. So we're all trying to write her obituary. And then we got hung up because Dee Dee had gone back to school and she had graduated magna cum laude, and we couldn't figure out how to spell that. Everybody's Googling on their yeah, it's like, I got to believe Dee Dee's laughing about this, looking down going, what are you crazy people doing? Who cares? But anyway, so it's a serious moment, and we're going to be talking about that. But I think the whole idea of a funeral, of arranging someone's final affairs, whether it's before they die or after they pass away, really does remind you that you can't take it with you. One of the things we emphasize at Tony Walker Financial, and this can't take it with you, is the idea of live well, die broke. Now, again, folks, this gets a lot of confusing responses from people. They're like, well, what do you mean? Am I supposed to just intentionally die broke? That's not what we're saying. We're saying is no matter how much you have, whether it's a little or a lot, we can't take it with us. In other words, we all die broke. So why in the world would you not set up a game plan to use and enjoy this money now before it's too late? Aaron, I know on the TV show we talk about the little Bible segment we have at the end of each show, but I've got to bring that up. You know, there's a parable in the scriptures where Jesus talks to somebody about building bigger barns. Remember that verse?
Yes.
Okay. And all of a sudden, right about the time this person, we're assuming they're retired. I don't know if they were retired in Jesus' day or not, but we think they did. But we assume this person is building all of these bigger barns and stockpiling all this money and watching it, you know, kind of like your 401k, right, folks? It's growing and you're watching it. You're enthused and excited, but you never spend it. Then all of a sudden, this rich man, at a point in time where he says, okay, I think I'm ready to spend it, God calls him home. So we don't want that to happen, folks. The point is nobody really knows when they might die. How do we strike a balance between, listen, here's the key word of the day, having access to our money. Why? So we can spend and enjoy some of it. Then how do we keep from running out of it? Well, folks, I've got really good news because at Tony Walker Financial, we've cracked the code on both. When we come back on the Worry-Free Retirement, I'm going to show you how to have your cake and eat it too, how to have access to your money, but also without the fear of one day running out. You're listening to the Worry-Free Retirement. I'm Tony Walker with America's favorite financial sidekick. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Leanne Tinsley in the Income Planning Department here at Tony Walker Financial. With the recent passing of the Secure Act 2.0, the starting age for the required minimum distribution, or RMD, has been raised to 73. If you were going to be turning 72 in 2023 and were planning to begin those RMDs, you are no longer required to do so. If you have any questions regarding your RMD and your eligibility, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Tony Walker here on the radio show. Obviously, you're listening to this on the radio show. The reason I say that, we mentioned earlier about our TV show. And Aaron, something I've noticed, of course, we're on 6 or 7 different radio stations throughout the state of Kentucky, numerous TV stations, major networks. And I always ask people when they come in for a meeting, Aaron, I meet with 20 to 30 people a week in person. If it's a new prospective client, I try to ask them, how did you hear about us? Or how did you see us? It's interesting. Now, again, this isn't scientific, but it's interesting. A lot of men catch the show on the radio as opposed to TV. I'm thinking, my thoughts are, possibly could men be out riding around more working? Because a lot of these men that come in to see me, they say, oh yeah, I listen to the radio show all the time. They have jobs outside the household. Maybe they're on a line crew or they're driving back and forth to work. Whereas it seems like, not all the time, but predominantly females and men catch the show. Some females catch the radio show. I'm not sure. It's just interesting. But anyway, this gentleman, this is our Tony in the Trenches. So he came in the other day. He listens to the radio show a lot. He said, yeah, I've seen the TV show a few times, but I'm out and about. I think he's a farmer, drives around in his car all the time or whatever. So he catches the radio show a lot. And here was his question. He said, Tony, I met with an advisor who impressed me when presenting on his office TV screen. So set the stage, Aaron. Apparently, and I talked to this gentleman later, he somehow was contacted by an advisor. I think he heard the advisor on the radio. He goes in to see him, and the advisor's got this big TV screen. Have you seen that TV screen in my office?
Yes.
I mean, I use it some, but apparently the advisor was putting on a really nice presentation on this TV screen. So let's keep going. So he says he was presenting in his office on his TV screen an annuity offering a 13% bonus and an annual rate of return of 7%. Sounding pretty good so far, isn't that, Aaron?
Okay.
Yeah, I like what the guy's showing. But I like what this gentleman said, and he said he's listened to the show, and he decided to ask him this question, really important. He said, when I asked him if the 7% rate of return was guaranteed, the advisor said no, but it's probably going to happen. Don't worry about it. Is that a good response, you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy with that.
But I love what the gentleman said. So the gentleman took it one step further. He's telling me this. He said, I asked him for something in writing. And here's what the gentleman told him back. The advisor, he said, I'll give you something in writing after we purchase the annuity. How's that sound, Aaron?
Sure.
You're going to get your car worked on. You ask for a written estimate, right? And they say, no, we'll work on the car and then we'll tell you how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, no.
That doesn't work.
No.
So I love this part. He said, I left his office with a funny feeling about the whole thing as it all sounded too good to be true. What would you suggest I do, Tony? And then basically, here's my response. Well, hopefully you left the office with your wallet. So folks, here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing more and more of this. Annuity peddlers. Let's define annuity peddlers. Annuity peddlers are those who, first of all, are not fiduciaries. They're not providing game plans. They're not disclosing the pros and cons of annuities. These are people who are just trying to sell annuities for a commission. That's it. So if you're not hearing the pros and the cons, and these 7 questions to ask, you need to get us at least a second opinion before you invest in these annuities. Folks, many of these annuities are long-term contracts, meaning if you get out of them within 10 to 15 years, there are huge penalties. Now, again, nothing wrong with a long-term annuity contract. We sell these all the time. But you got to make sure that you have access to that money or money somewhere else, which we'll talk about in a minute. So that's when you get your money tied up in these annuities. That's when a lot of you come to me 3 or 4 years after purchasing these annuities and you need help. And I'm like, I can't do anything with these annuities. You're now stuck in these annuities. We don't want that to happen, folks. So here's 7 questions to ask any advisor. If they won't provide you this information, grab your wallet and get out of there and get a second opinion. Number 1, can you provide me a product brochure from the insurance company? That's the first thing you should ask. Number 2, what are the surrender charges? Again, the product brochure will show you the surrender charges. You want to understand what it's going to cost you to get out before the term ends. Number 3, if I do get out, is there something called MVA? That stands for Market Value Adjustment. It's kind of a complicated term, but you need to know if there is MVA contained in this contract. Number 4, is there a minimum guaranteed rate I can see? I want to see worst case scenario. So in this gentleman's example, the 7% was not guaranteed. So then you need to see what is the guarantee. We always show a guaranteed return of 0% just so you can see what happens to the annuity. Number 5, if the bonus is provided, a lot of annuities do provide bonuses. When and if does the bonus vest? That means if I surrender it, am I going to get all the bonus out or do I lose the bonus? Number 6, accessibility to the contract. Okay, that's the key word, access. In other words, if I put this money in the annuity, how soon can I get all my money back? Or is there a way I can get some of it back? The good news, not all, but most annuities provide something called a 10% penalty-free withdrawal every year. So let's say you put in $200,000 in an annuity. It's a 10-year contract, meaning if you cancel the contract or surrender it before 10 years, you're going to pay a penalty, or somebody is. But the insurance company will say, okay, you've got $200,000 in here. Next year, starting after the first year, we'll let you take 10% of it out each year, penalty-free. So in that example, you could take $20,000 out each year. And they're different for different companies. Sometimes they revalue it each year. You may not get 20 the next year. Again, this is where you have to look. The devil's in the details. And finally, show the guaranteed values. Again, kind of gets back to worst case scenario. It's fine to look at assumed values, like maybe it'll make 7%. But again, you want to know the guaranteed values. Okay, last week on our show, again, we're into, if you're just now joining us, we're into You Can't Take It With You Part 2. I talked about my favorite, one of my favorite programs. I just think it's a cool show to kick back and watch, called Antique Roadshow. And basically, this is a show where clueless owners of interesting stuff try to determine how much those items might be worth based on someone else's knowledge of them. Now, this term is called fair market value. Aaron, you've heard of an appraiser, haven't you, for a house?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you realize that's what an appraiser does? So let's say you want to sell your home, Aaron. The appraiser shows up. They walk around the house. What do you think they're going to do? They think you're going to take your word for it, or are they going to try to look around and find out what other homes have sold for in your area?
They're going to find out what other homes have sold for. And yeah, I just actually went through this last year. My mortgage payment actually went up because the house appraised for more than I paid for it. We've done some work around the house. We've finished the basement, all of that kind of stuff.
Your mortgage payment or your taxes on your home?
I'm sorry, my taxes.
That's okay. Okay,
my taxes.
Go ahead. Yeah. So what happened was, the fair market value of your home went up because you've improved, but also home prices have gone up, right?
Right. That
too. There you go. So they raised the taxes. So here's the definition. You want to write this down, folks. This is a key definition of understanding access to your money and what something is worth. We're going somewhere with this. Hang on. Okay. The definition of fair market value is as follows: willing buyer, willing seller, neither under compulsion to buy nor sell. Willing buyer, willing seller, neither under compulsion to buy nor sell. So let's stay with the Antique Roadshow, Aaron. Let's say it's a beautiful vase. The person's at the Antique Roadshow with the appraiser, has no idea what it's worth. They paid $30 at a garage sale for it. This is the kind of stuff that happens. The appraiser, who acknowledges something about that vase, says, you know what you could get for this? Probably upwards of $10,000 to $20,000. Then the person kind of faints and gets a hold of themselves. But the point is, if you then took that vase in a hurry, maybe you were desperate for money, and ran down to the local pawn shop with it, are they going to pay you $10,000 to $15,000?
No.
They may give you $100 or something.
Right.
Because they know you're under compulsion. So again, that seller and that buyer, to really establish fair market value, neither can be under compulsion. Now, as we record this show in March of 2023, this just happened the last couple of years. Aaron talked about it, but really where it happened was when interest rates were so low. Okay, now they're back up. The housing market went crazy. In fact, people not only, Aaron stuck for sale signs in front of their house, people would come along and offer to pay more than what you had on the listing. You heard about this, didn't you, Aaron?
Yes.
So the question is why? Because people were under compulsion. These low interest rates allowed them to buy a whole lot more house than they could normally afford. So they paid extra for the house. That was great for the seller. Not great for the buyer, though, because now, as we record this show, interest rates are much higher. I guarantee if those same persons went to sell those houses they just paid a premium for, they're not going to get the same amount because people are not as compelled to buy because it's more expensive due to interest rates. Folks, this stuff is really important. So, Tony, you say, what does that have to do with my, let's say, 401k plan? Well, it has everything to do with it. That's why we've created something called the Split IRA plan. So this concept takes your 401k, which probably right now is very highly leveraged with stocks and bonds, and these plans went down in value a lot in 2022. And what that means is the fair market value of your 401k went down because people aren't willing to pay as much for it. And you can blame it on the pandemic, you can blame it on interest rates, you can blame it on supply and demand. It doesn't matter. The point is, if you've got an asset that is fluctuating a lot in value, like a 401k, if it has what's called within it a tax tumor, if you go to retire like a lot of people did in 2009 when the market crashed, and then you try to take money out, it's like running to the pawn shop because you're desperate, you're going to be under a compulsion, you're going to sell that stock or those mutual funds at a loss. Folks, you can't do that. You have to have some money that's accessible. And accessible means you can get at it lickety-split without a lot of penalties, without a lot of cost. And that's where we come at Tony Walker Financial. We are experts at helping people set up game plans to allow their money to be not only accessible, but to make sure they don't run out of money in retirement. We do that through something called the Split IRA concept, where we combine the beauty of liquidity through our Charles Schwab platform that we manage, 0.8%. 0.8% is all we charge, plus our expertise in the world of annuities, where we can provide those guarantees, great principal protection, and if you want, that beloved
mailbox money.
The mailbox money is that money which you will never outlive. So folks, if that's you, if you're sitting there saying, yeah, I don't have anything like this. I don't understand how to roll that 401k over, how to get with a local advisor, a fiduciary that can help me understand both worlds of Wall Street and annuities and look at all these different types of annuities I might want to consider, then do this right now. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or call us at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, we've got an interesting thought coming up. When I returned, this is something we have nothing to do with, folks, but it's something I'm becoming more and more aware of. It goes back to the original theme of our show. You can't take it with you, and this whole idea of a bunch of clueless people sitting around trying to plan a funeral for a loved one. Good stuff coming your way. We're going to talk to a funeral director about something called pre-planned funerals. I'm Tony Walker. We'll be right back.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, 403b, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 33 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back, everybody. I am America's favorite financial sidekick. Just want to take a couple seconds and let you know about us online, social media, where you can find us, okay? You want to listen to past radio shows? All you got to do is go to SoundCloud, type in the Worry-Free Retirement. You want to watch past TV shows? Just go to YouTube.com and type in Tony Walker Financial. And then as far as social media, check us out on Facebook at theworryfreeretirement.com and check us out on Instagram at the Worry-Free Retirement. Okay, Tony, real quick. Last week, we threw out there we were talking about your dad's coin changer, and we threw out the question, had people email me and say, how much do you think it was worth? And we had all kinds of people emailing, $100, $250.
Wait a minute. Nobody in the thousands?
No, nobody got that high. Nobody got that high, I don't think. You ready for the answer?
Oh, I actually am.
Okay, and the answer, drum roll please, is Derek found this online for $25.
Now, wait a minute. Now, was it the exact coin changer or a replica similar?
I'm pretty sure it was the exact same one. I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
You can't retire just yet. You got to keep working.
Yeah, can you imagine if I'd gotten an antique roadshow and the guy told me that? I'd be expecting, oh, well, that'd be my luck, folks. Okay. So in the essence of time here, earlier in our monologue, we talked about the notion of family members sitting around a funeral home trying to figure out the last wishes of their dead close family member and what those would have been. Well, I've been in those settings, and I can tell you this. It is very, very stressful, awkward, kind of like the, example we used of my great late mother-in-law, Dee Dee, and, sitting there trying to figure out how to spell magna cum laude for the obituary. Folks, it doesn't have to be this complicated. And what I'm encouraging you, again, we get no money on this. I get nothing out of this. But I'm becoming a big believer in something called pre-planned funerals, where you go to the funeral home, meet with a funeral director, and actually lay out your plans. Lay it out so the way you want it. So maybe even your family member won't waste unneeded money or put them through stress over this. And I'll tell you what, Aaron, the people I've met whose parents have gone through these and they just show up at the funeral home, it's like they're like, man, we so much appreciate all this being done. Nobody really wants to do this stuff. So we're going to go right now to, actually he's a friend of mine, good friend of mine, but he's also a funeral director in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So let's hear what he has to say about pre-planned funerals. What is a pre-planned funeral, and what are the advantages of someone taking advantage of going on and pre-planning their funeral?
Well, a pre-planned funeral is where someone comes in and sits down with the funeral director and tells them how they want things done, what they want. We take biographical information so that when the next of kin or their loved one comes in, a lot of things done ahead of time. And we've had a lot of people are very appreciative of their mother or their father or whoever come in and did this ahead of time.
And I'm getting that same feedback, Eddie. People have told me that loved ones have passed away who have pre-planned this funeral, and it sure takes a burden off of the family. So briefly, first of all, appreciate you being on, but briefly, how much can the price range be of a pre-planned funeral?
You're looking at a direct cremation, $29.95 to a burial, a night of visitation, where you casket, grave lots, monument. You'd probably be looking at between $9,000 and $11,000.
Okay. And so I'm sure people can contact you at J.C. Kirby & Son. Is there any cost or obligation to just discuss something like a pre-planned funeral with you guys?
No, we sit down with people and talk to them, and there's no charge because, like I said, we want to make sure everybody is happy when they come through our doors and leave our doors, but there's no charge.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Eddie, and you make it a good day.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, speaking of pre-planning, I've got a good question for you. How much time have you pre-planned your retirement? And folks, I'm not even talking about those who aren't yet retired. I'm talking about you out there who is already retired, but you really do not have a true written game plan. Now, what is the importance of this game plan? Well, it's kind of like that pre-planned funeral. I mean, think about this. Many of you, let's say you're married, you maybe handle the finances, or maybe your spouse handles the finances, but if one of you all passes away, I've got a question for you. Do you really know what's going to happen next? And more than likely, no. In fact, a good friend of mine passed away recently, and I didn't realize this. He was not a client, Aaron, but his wife, he had told his wife, who didn't know me, said, if something happens to me, contact Tony Walker. Well, he passed away. He's only in his 60s. She came to me and she reminded me that. She said, I'll call him Jim. She said, Jim always told me, something happens to me, go see Tony Walker. He's going to be able to help you manage this stuff. And she was in with her daughter, and I'm so appreciative that he trusted me that much. Even though he wasn't a client, he knew that I would take good care of her and the money. So if that's you right now, if you're sitting there saying, Tony, man, yeah, you're right. I've just got a bunch of investments. I've thrown some money in an annuity. I'm talking to some advisors. Nobody's really given me any written game plan. They won't tell me exactly how they work, how much they're going to charge. I want somebody I can trust, a local fiduciary that's got a staff in place that's going to be there to service what I'm going to plan for me and my loved ones. If that's you right now, we've got a great offer for you, and it's absolutely free. It's called the 10-minute free fiduciary phone call. So to talk to me, the owner of the company, what we do is we just arrange a 10-minute call. You want to go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the Let's Get Started, or just call us at 877-499-9255 or 270-843-9380. We'll arrange that phone call, and then if it warrants, I'll be happy to meet with you in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Well, that's all the time we have today. You know what? Next week, I got a feeling we're going to have another part 3 of You Can't Take It With You. But between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.